So what we want to do, like against the teams in Group D, it's way easier for us to like to play against teams like Liquid, for example. We are not afraid at all of Liquid. Teams like IG. I mean, IG, no. IG could be a mismatch, but that's only one team.
Hey guys, this is Ashley Kang of Horizon Esports, and I'm joined by Duke, the coach of Splyce. After they qualified for 2019 World Championship and look forward to playing for the play-in stage, how has the preparations going? Because you qualified to Worlds as the third seed, and I'm guessing that you jumped in straight into the practices.
We took a few days break after the gauntlet, and yeah, we jumped right into the practice again. We already are screaming the teams that are coming for Worlds. So there was team from EU Masters that were still here, and the teams, the NA teams are already here, so we can scrim them from time to time.
And the scrim situation for this world is really fascinating because previously all of the teams would go to the same region and bootcamp. However, this time there is a big divide. A lot of the NA teams have come to Europe, so there is a pool of teams scrimming in Berlin. However, there are the Chinese teams and Korean teams, and some of the other teams have opted to bootcamping in Korea. So what do you think about this divide, and do you think we'll be seeing a radical difference in how the different teams interpret the current meta?
I mean, I think this divide is more comfort for everyone. Obviously, in Europe, we are going to stay in Europe. The solo queue is good enough, I would say, and it would make no sense for us to go there and then to come back. The question is more, why did NA choose Europe instead of Korea or China? I don't know, I guess they thought that it would be less exhausting for them to do just one trip. But I definitely think that, yes, we might have, especially at the beginning of the competition, different types of meta that will be like the result of two types of training. But as soon as we reach, I think, quarterfinals, I think the meta should like converge towards like the same direction.
Also, I think this represents another trend in terms of where the global League of Legends scene is heading, because previously Korea was the exalted, the #1 region in the world, and hey, Korean solo queue is the best, Korean teams are the best, we have to go to Korea and learn from those teams. But that is no longer the case. It feels like the title of best region in the world is definitely up for grabs, and the EU solo queue is seen in like a much more prestigious light. Would you agree with the statement?
Solo queue wise, I think Korea is still the best, and I have no real knowledge of Chinese solo queue, so I can't talk about it, but apparently it's really competitive too. I think Korea is still the best for solo queue, and I think that's the main reason why, for example, as an European team, we would go to Korea. I think as for the best region at the moment, I think indeed it can be really contested. I think it's between Europe, China, and Korea at the moment. I was a bit underwhelmed by Korea, I think, before MSI and at MSI. I think SKT adapted pretty well during MSI, but I think they were a bit lagging behind in terms of adaptation to what I would call modern League of Legends. But I think during Summer Split, some of those teams improved. And also Korea is known to adapt well. I think Korea is, for me, is not a region that innovates that much, but refines very well the play styles. And I'm pretty sure that during Worlds, which is a way longer competition at MSI, Korea will find the time to refine their own play style and adapt it to the overall world meta. And I'm really curious about what Korea can do in this environment.
Because the LEC teams truly flourished in this shift in meta, which look for more early game, aggression and skirmishes, starting from 2018 Worlds and continuing into MSI. So, why do you think Europe in particular managed to adapt so well to this current meta, which is, aggression, skirmishes, early game team fights?
I think it's mainly because Europe is creating it. I think teams like G2 and to some extent, G2 through their picks and their adaptability, their ability to flex champions everywhere, can forced new rules upon League of Legends that you have to adapt. And as soon as a team in the competition forces it, then the other teams have to adapt and try them out, even if sometimes it doesn't work. A team like Fnatic also have even last year had this specific style that is more, I would say, it's more from China, where you just play on one side of the map and you hard force all the time because of the huge tempo lead, instead of doing for a slow 1-3-1 setup that Korea always love to do. So I think it's a bit a mix of everything. The new League of Legends, where you play more for speed and try to hard commit into really fast plays, and the innovation of champion pool that teams like G2 brought in the game. So I think Europe has just been innovating on that aspect. Let's see if it pays off for Worlds.
Speaking of EU and its chances in World Championship, I would like to ask, have you watched the recent group draws, and what were your impressions on it?
And Fnatic and G2 got pretty hard groups, even if I don't think the G2 group is that hard, because they have C9 and Griffin, yeah. And Griffin, I think C9 should be really easy for G2, and Griffin, G2 are still favored in the matchup, I would say, even if Griffin is a really strong team. However, Fnatic got a bit unlucky, to be honest, RNG and SKT in the same group. I wish them good luck. But for us as Splyce, we got pretty lucky in a sense, because if we make out of play-ins, then we'd be in Group B or D, which I think are easier group than A and C. So we are pretty happy with the group draw, and we would prefer being on Group D if possible.
That actually surprises me, because a lot of people would look at Group B and see. Yeah, I would like to hear your opinion on that.
No. Like Group B, I think, especially for us, I think it's more a question of stylistic match against those teams. I think we are kind of a slow team. We have really good. I think we proved a lot recently on our mid-late game macro, and we have really good team fighting too in the mid-late game. And our issue is often sometimes the early game, or how we transition when we are behind, and I think it showed a lot in the games in the Gauntlet, for example. So what we want to do, against the teams in Group D, it's way easier for us to play against teams like Liquid, for example. We are not afraid at all of Liquid. Teams like IG. IG, no. IG could be a mismatch, but that's only one team. I think Liquid and AHQ are totally doable, and IG are in a bit of a slump at the moment. It's not the IG that we saw last year, I would say. So obviously we are not favored, I know, but we can do something. Well, in the Group B, Group B is also doable. I think Fun plus Phoenix would be really rough for us. And the two other teams, it's more that they are more of a... there is an X factor in those teams. They can play super chaotic, super aggressive, and in best of one, I'm more scared of those teams than a team like Liquid, personally.
You mentioned a lot about Splyce's playstyle just now, and people look at Splyce and see many things. They see a team that is very good at winning the early game lanes. They also see a team that is a bit hesitant to get into a team fight until it becomes very late game, and they know that for sure that we can win this team fight around Kobe. So as the coach of Splyce, how would you define Splyce's playstyle?
And this definition of Splyce is more the Splyce from Spring Split, where we had really good early game, not necessarily through lanes, I think through good aggressions. Then we really had a terrible mid game, terrible adaptation from, I would say, between 10-15 to 20-25. And then even when we were ahead, we had to fall back to the late game team fighting. At the moment, we are not like this. I would say that games go really late when we are behind in the early game, because we have to stall. We are trying to find plays slowly to make sure that we are not giving a good advantage to the opponent. Recently, however, when we got ahead in the early game against Schalke, for example, game 1 and 2, I think we snowballed pretty well. It can always be better, right? But I think at the moment we evolved a bit. I think as a team, our identity is that. Our main identity is that we never give up. So if we are behind, we don't care about if the game drags to 40 minutes, and I think the key for us in those worlds would be, are we able to match our opponents in the early game? And I think if we are able to match our opponents in the early game, I have no doubt that our mid game should be good enough.
You mentioned that you would like to face Team Liquid and HAQ more in the group stages due to their playstyle. Going back to the play-ins a little bit, in the play-ins you'll be facing Flamengo, Eastbourne?
No, we're gonna face Isurus,
Oh yeah, that's it.
and Detonation Focus.
Yeah. And Isurus Gaming especially is known to play a bit of a more chaotic style, and there might also be the case for other play-ins, teams that you might face in the second out of play-ins. So how do you intend to counter or possibly face those type of teams?
I mean, what we are trying to do at the moment is fix our, I would say, early game flaws, which comes a lot from the draft. I think there was a big misconception about us. I heard that we were supposed to be really good at adapting to a new patch. That's something that I read among the analysts during this year, but it's absolutely wrong. I think we take a lot of time usually to adapt to a new patch. And for example, when we were in a slump before playoff, but also on the playoff patch, we had really huge champion pool problems at the moment. And with 3 weeks more coming into the gauntlet, we were able to solidify our champion pool and be able to be way more solid on that aspect, which gave us way more ability to win draft and therefore win the game. And I think against playing team, what we need at the moment is to solidify our champion pool to have an early game that where we can control it. Because as much as those teams can be chaotic, I think it's not the same playing against a team like IG or G2 that have insane individual talent that can blow up the early game. Yes, they will try to, the playing team will try to blow up the early game, but I trust us to be solid enough to counter them.
Actually, thank you so much for being really candid about what you see as the Splyce at the moment and how you would improve the team. Splyce is currently seen as the underdog representative of LEC, as many people put faith on G2 and Fnatic. If Splyce is to upset and surprise those, perceptions, what is the one thing that Splyce needs to do in order to step up and go even beyond group stages? Is it the champion pools, or is it something else?
No, it's more a question of confidence and our ability. We are our own enemies in a sense. I mean, the whole year, everyone watching the LEC has always been underrating whether our performance or our potential. First our potential, then our performance, when our performance was not matching the expectation of us not having potential. But every time, every new objective that we get, we somehow, even if we barely do it, we manage to first we manage to get playoff in spring, then we get playoff in summer, then we get world's tickets at the end of the summer. It all comes down to us having the right mindset and being in the right work atmosphere. I think when we scrim, when we're able to take the most out of those games, because I think we are really reliant on our work ethic and how we approach training. And if we feel good about ourselves and if we have good training, I think we can definitely go out of group stage. And if not, if we are not able to be basically the best version of ourselves, then we won't.
Fnatic has been drafted into Group C, and let's assume that Splyce gets drafted into Group D. Do you think Splyce has a higher chance of getting out of groups compared to Fnatic?
That's a rough question. The thing is, in current form, I think not, because I think we still need 2 weeks. I think after the gauntlet, after the break, it's a bit harder for us to come back at it. I think that we were extremely exhausted after the gauntlet, and I think in 2 weeks, if we reach the form that I think we can reach, I think maybe. But I also have no idea about the current form of RNG, honestly. I think SKT will be an extremely strong team for Worlds. I think I put them as one of my favorite team, I think, for, I would say, top 3. So I don't know about RNG. I would say maybe, but I really don't know if Fnatic or us. But obviously Fnatic should be more favored. But I think that I'm not afraid of a team like Liquid.
Okay, thank you so much for the interview, and the best of luck going into the play-ins preparations. Finally, if you could state your one goal, it could be for Splyce or it could be as Duke, as a person. If you could tell me one goal coming into this world, it would be really appreciated. I
mean, I don't have a personal goal. I think we all share the same goal, and realistically, I think going out of groups would be a really great performance for Splyce. Qualifying to Worlds was already really big for us, and but I think we have a decent draw, and I see us making out of groups, and then after that, if we reach that state, maybe we achieve to reach a new level of unlock a new level of our potential. But I think realistically, making out of groups would be a huge success for us.
Cool. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you in Berlin and hopefully also in Madrid. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was Ashley Kang of Horizon Esports, and I was joined by Duke, the coach of Splyce. For more League of Legends and 2019 World Championship content, check out Horizon on YouTube and remember to subscribe. Hey guys, this is Ashley Kang of Horizon Esports. I'm joining you from Berlin, Germany. We're here at Europe to cover the 2019 World Championship from play-ins all the way to the finals. So if you want to check out the player interviews and any other types of content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you soon.